Let's talk about money. When you think about what it takes to get rich, what comes to mind? Probably things like being a genius, having a fancy degree, right? Or maybe being a whiz with spreadsheets. But what if I told you the single most important factor has almost nothing to do with how smart you are and everything to do with how you act?
To see what I mean, let's look at two guys. On one hand, you've got Ronald Read. He was a janitor, a gas station attendant. When he died, he left over $8 million to charity. Then, on the other hand, you have Richard Fuscone. This guy had a Harvard MBA, a top job at Merrill Lynch, and he went completely bankrupt.
So, how does that happen, right? How can a janitor with zero financial training absolutely crush a Harvard-educated finance executive? That's the puzzle we're going to solve today, and the answers come from a fantastic book by Morgan Housel called The Psychology of Money.
All right, first up, A Tale of Two Fortunes. To really get this, we've got to throw out a lot of what we think we know about money.
And here it is, the big secret, right at the start. Financial success is not a hard science. It's not physics with perfect formulas. It's a soft skill. See, Ronald Read didn't have a fancy degree. He had patience. And Richard Fuscone, he wasn't lacking intelligence. He just couldn't control his greed. Bottom line, your behavior will always trump your brilliance.
Okay, next section, why you're crazy makes sense. So if behavior is the key, where do our financial habits even come from? This leads to a really powerful idea.
And Housel just nails it with this quote. Think about it. We all believe we understand how money works, right? But our entire worldview, everything we believe, is built on this impossibly small personal sliver of history. It's like we're all trying to navigate the same ocean, but we're all using completely different hand-drawn maps.
And check this out, this visualizes it perfectly. If you were born in, say, 1970, you saw the stock market go to the moon when you were young. That's your reality. But if you were born in 1950, totally different story. Or look at inflation. If you grew up in the 60s, you watched prices skyrocket and felt that sting. But if you grew up in the 90s, inflation was basically a non-issue. These aren't just stats on a chart. They are deep emotional lessons that are burned into your brain and shape how you see risk and opportunity forever.
And this is so important. What this means is that no one is crazy. That person you see buying lottery tickets instead of stocks, or your friend who is absolutely terrified of any kind of debt, from their perspective, based on the tiny piece of the world they've actually lived through, their decisions make perfect sense. And having a little empathy for that is the first step to getting a handle on our own behaviors.
Okay, section 3, the power of luck and risk. So if our own personal experience isn't the whole story, what else is out there pulling the strings? Well, two of the biggest forces are luck and its twin brother, risk. So let's talk about Bill Gates. Obviously, the guy's a genius, nobody's debating that. But his genius got a huge, massive head start. He happened to go to one of the only high schools in the entire world that had a computer back in 1968. This gave him thousands of hours of practice before most adults even knew what a computer was. What were the odds of that? Of a teenager having that kind of access back then? Literally about 1 in a million. That is some serious lottery-winning luck.
But here's the thing. Gates wasn't on his own. He had a best friend, Kent Evans. And everyone who knew them said Kent was just as smart, just as ambitious. The two of them were going to build a company and take over the world together.
And there's that number again, 1 in a million. But this isn't luck. This time, it's the odds of dying in a mountaineering accident while you're still in high school. And that's exactly what happened to Kent Evans. He never even got to graduate.
You see, Bill Gates hit a 1 in a million jackpot of luck. Kent Evans hit a 1 in a million tragedy of risk. They are the exact same force, just pointing in opposite directions. It proves that every outcome in life is a mix of your own effort and stuff that is completely out of your hands. You can't believe in luck without also having a healthy respect for risk.
All right, on to section 4, the danger of wanting more. And this might just be the most dangerous behavioral trap of all, the simple human inability to know when you have enough.
There's this amazing story. The author Joseph Heller, who wrote Catch-22, is at a party with his friend Kurt Vonnegut. The party's at a billionaire's mansion. Vonnegut points out that their host, the billionaire, made more money in a single day than Heller's masterpiece novel had made in its entire lifetime. And Heller's response is just perfect. He says, yeah, but I have something he will never have. Enough. And when you lose that sense of enough, you get stories like Rajat Gupta. This guy was the CEO of McKinsey. He was worth $100 million. Or Bernie Madoff, who had a massively successful, totally legitimate business on the side. These guys had everything, but it wasn't enough. They wanted more. So they risked the money they had and needed for money they didn't have and didn't need. And of course, they lost it all.
So here's the real trap we all fall into. Our modern world is an incredible machine for creating wealth, yeah, but it's an even better machine for creating envy. The minute you get a little more, your ambition jumps up, and the goalpost moves. It's a never-ending cycle. So you just keep taking bigger and bigger risks just to feel like you're not falling behind.
So how do you fight that? How do you get off that hamster wheel? The answer is you don't fight. The only way to win the social comparison game is to just not play. You have to step off the field. You have to accept that maybe, just maybe, you have enough. There's an old saying, happiness equals results minus expectations. The easiest path to being happier, just keep your expectations from running wild.
Okay, last section. Behavior is your superpower. Let's tie all of this together and get back to that janitor and the executive.
So, Ronald Read and Richard Fuscone, how did the janitor come out on top? It had nothing to do with brains. It was all behavior. Ronald Read was patient. He lived below his means and he just waited for decades. Richard Fuscone was greedy. He took on insane amounts of debt because he wanted more and he wanted it faster. It's simple, really. One guy mastered his behavior and the other guy was a slave to his.
And that really is the main takeaway from all of this. Getting good with money has so little to do with what you know. It's all about how you act. It's about being humble enough to respect luck and risk. It's about being patient. And maybe most importantly, it's about defining for yourself what enough looks like no matter what the people around you are doing.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. Your biggest financial asset isn't your IQ, it's not your education, it's your behavior. It's your habits. And if you really take that to heart, what's one financial behavior you could start working on today?